Hello and welcome to News Central Television. The top stories at this hour. Death toll from Ibadan explosion rises to 5. 1 dead, 5 wounded in Comoros poll violence. Opposition in DR Congo calls for Inauguration Day protests. Details to come your way shortly. For our viewers across Africa and the rest of the world, this is NC Continental Prime. I am Lekon Onobanjo. We begin in West Africa, where the state government, southwest Nigeria, has reported that the death toll resulting from the Tuesday explosion in Ibadan, the state capital, has increased to 5. The explosion caused extensive damage to numerous houses within a 14-kilometer radius. On Tuesday night, Governor Seyi Makinde provided an update stating that 2 deaths occurred on the day of the incident, with an additional victim succumbing to injuries in a hospital on Wednesday. In the aftermath of the blast, 7 individuals sustained injuries in the Bodija area of Ibadan. Earlier, News Central's Bernard Akede and security consultant Richie Amoa joined me to speak more on this.
Well, Leko, I don't know about the death toll numbers that have risen, but what I can tell you is while we were standing here earlier, we did see certain bodies being exhumed from underneath the rubble. As a matter of fact, it was a bad sight, I must confess. Graphic scenes, I must tell you. Some of these bodies were mangled, some were dismembered, of course, because of the impact of the explosion, and they were put into body bags. It's not something that anybody should want to see. So I don't know the exact numbers, of the dead right now from this explosion. But yes, the numbers definitely have increased. And then, of course, the numbers of the wounded too have increased. We've spoken to Fatah Owusheni, as you saw there. We spoke to the SSA, to the president on domestic matters. We spoke to the Commissioner of Women Affairs in Oyo State. And they gave their own, assessment of what they've seen.
I'm not just going to say I'm impressed with all those situations. What happened in Oyo State, Ibadan, is something that is avoidable. This is a residential area. And I don't know why in a country like Nigeria, in a state like, in a state like, Oyo State, Ibadan, where things are not done in a right way. And it's so sad for me, seriously, to always discuss this situation every time. First of all, let me even say my condolences to the families that lost their loved ones. What Mr. President said, yes, he has said it. They were going to get to the root of the matter, blah, blah, blah. But the truth of the matter is that, is it going to stop the carnage in Nigeria?
Still talking security matters, residents of 10 communities in Bungudu local government area of Zamfara State, northern Nigeria, have fled the homes for fear of being attacked by a notorious bandits leader, Dan Nagala, who earlier sent attack threats to them. The affected villages are Gidan Soro, Maji, Fandahaki, Ayandankaro, Doka, Dangamji, Galmuwarhanu, Dan Katsina, Dakwalige, and Gidan Harani. The residents fled their homes following a recent operation carried out by soldiers of the Operation Hadarin Daji unit. The operatives on Tuesday stormed the famous Danbasa-Buzaya forest and recovered a large number of cows allegedly stolen and kept by Dan Nagala. To further discuss this, I'm joined by Dr. Sani Abdullahi Shinkafi, former chairman for the prosecution of armed banditry-related offenses in Zamfara State. Dr. Shinkafi, it's nice to have you talk to us at this time.
Thank you for having me.
Now, according to reports, people in 10 communities are fleeing their homes for fear of being attacked by a notorious bandits leader. A name has been identified, Dan Nagala. Someone delivered the message of an imminent threat, and before now, ransoms have been collected for those kidnapped. Aren't these enough intel to trail the bandits and get them apprehended?
Well, Nagala is one of the notorious bandits who reside between Maru local government and Bungudu local government forest, with its large numbers of bandits who he terrorized the area of Gada, Maru local government, and Sado axis, and even on some part of Kauranamoda axis. He has been in this armed banditry and criminality for more than a decade. So these 10 communities and other even community within the vicinity have flew out of that district for the fear of his nefarious activities, because he's one of the heartless and the most ungodly, notorious armed bandit kingpin. And Operation Hadar and Daji went on such operation in their hideout. They were able to intercept some of the cattle which was rustled by this armed bandit. And for the fear of the attack, then the communities around that vicinity has left to no option than to flee from their homes, because they know he's very heartless and he's ungodly.
Dr. Shinkafi, you just said that some of the cows were intercepted, cows rustled were intercepted, and I want to believe that they were recovered. Of course, looking at your position, why is it that the Nigerian army or the military operators in Nigeria has not been able to apprehend him? Looking at the intelligence, you mentioned a couple of places that you believe that he stays and considers a stronghold. Why is it hard to have him arrested, him and his bandits?
You have been somewhat outnumbered. The Nigerian military forces in Zamfara State have been trying their best of their ability, but they are understaffed, they are under-equipped. They need more fighting equipment to fight these criminals, both airstrike and on the ground. And these forests, some of these terrain are not motorable terrains. So they need to get motorcycles, or they need to also have gone into airstrike to dismantle these criminals in their hideout. So the military in Zamfara State are stretched, because almost all the 14 local government area of Zamfara State are under siege of this armed bandit command authority in catchment areas. Even just few days, Magizawa in Kamoda local government, more than 36 women were kidnapped. Also in Kuria Maduro villages. Yesterday, they were heavily attacked by these armed bandits. Some people were killed and some people were kidnapped. Day by day, on daily basis, this criminality of armed banditry have been a rampage at the
Dr. Shinkafi, let me quickly point out that a total of 3.25. Dr. Shinkafi, now about a total of 3.25 trillion naira, which represents about 12% of Nigeria's.
Can you come back again, please? Can you come back again?
Okay, so I said about
Can you come back again, please?
Dr. Shinkafi, can you hear me? Dr. Shinkafi, can you hear me? Oh boy, I think we just lost connection with the doctor there. It would have been nice to ask him some very pertinent questions as regards this issue. We'll try to see if we can bring him back anyway. But then let's continue with the stories on the news at this time. At least 9 people have been killed in Nigeria's north central just weeks after a flare-up in intercommunal attacks left nearly 200 people dead. Officials said the victims died in 3 attacks on Tuesday and Wednesday in the Bokkos district of Plateau State, a region plagued for years by religious and ethnic tensions. Gunshots were heard across farmland behind Plateau State University Bokkos campus, and 3 bodies were recovered on Tuesday. Another man was said to have been killed in Butura Kampani village. And that's it with that story. So we go back to Dr. Sani Abdullahi Kafi as we continue to talk about bandits in Zamfara State and why they have not been decimated. Dr. Shinkafi, it's nice to have you back on. So I wanted to share with you that about 3.25 trillion naira, which actually represents 12% of Nigeria's 2024 budget, has been allocated to security, ensuring that there's security in Nigeria. Earlier on, you talked about the fact that there are no adequate equipment for the military personnel to deal with those bandits. So where is the break in between what has been budgeted for in terms of security equipment for this personnel and having to have these equipments to deal with insurgency and banditry in areas where there are volatility or where these acts are volatile?
You see, for over decades, in the Nigerian annual budget, huge amount of money are allocated and appropriated for security and defense. And yet, this bandit and criminal element are yet to be apprehended or are yet to be totally downgraded. So that is now with this 2024 budget, have been taking about 4% of the total annual budget, about 3.5 trillion. The military apparatus, all the security apparatus in Nigeria need to be on their toes to make sure that the money are judiciously being used in procurement of jet fighter and other additional equipment for the fight against criminals. Because what is happening, you see a lot of money are appropriated, but yet there's nothing to write home about. So that is need for new recruitment of other security personnel, because as I have said earlier, the military forces are understaffed, are under-equipped, and also motivated and underappreciated. So the government need to, there should be a total overhaul of the security apparatus in Nigeria. And also need for forensic audit to make sure that these funds are utilized as appropriated in 2024 budgetary provisions.
Dr. Shinkafi, some of these communities have been held to ransom by these bandits with levies being collected from them. You've talked about the part of government, but then I'd like to ask, what should the state government be doing to liberate its indigents from the hands of these criminal elements?
The governor has to do much, because just last week, the Supreme Court have put a rest to the Zamfara State governorship election dispute. So now it's for the governor to sit down at home and face the security challenges we are facing in Zamfara State. And then also, there should be an emergency relief to this display.
Dr. Sani Abdullahi Shinkafi.
Recruit these community protection guards to assist the conventional security in the fight against crime and criminality in Zamfara State.
Dr. Sani Abdullahi Shinkafi, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us at this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Troops of the Operation Well Stroke, in collaboration with the police and other security agencies, have rescued 9 kidnap victims and arrested 2 suspects in Benue State, Nigeria's north-central region. The force commander, Major General Sunday Igbinomwankia, disclosed this to journalists on Thursday in Makadi. He said that troops rescued the victims and arrested the suspects during an operation on Tuesday at Obupa Forest in the Odadibo local government area of the state. Igbinomwankia added that the rescued victims comprised 8 females and a male. You're watching NC Continental Prime. We go on a short break. We will be back. Many thanks for staying with us. To post-election litigation stories now, less than 24 hours for the Supreme Court to deliver judgment in the Delta State governorship election appeal. The political atmosphere in the state has remained calm. Correspondent Austin Azu reports that popular expectation is a judgment that will reflect the good of the people. His reports.
Of Sheriff Oborewori by the Election Petition Tribunal and the Court of Appeal as duly elected governor of Delta State was challenged by the governorship candidates of the APC, Ovie Omoagege, Kenneth Gbagi of the SDP, and Kempela of the Labour Party. Dissatisfied, the legal tussle was taken to the country's highest courts, which reserved its judgment. Are residents of the state aware that the judgment day is here?
No, I'm not aware. I'm not aware. I'm not a politician. I'm not a politician. The matter is in the court. But I'm not aware is that it's tomorrow that they're giving judgment.
My likely opinion is let Supreme Court do the normal work.
Executive Assistant on Rotation and Communications to the state governor said the state is calm, waiting for the outcome of the Supreme Court judgment.
Let us know who won the election. They voted massively for Governor Sheriff Oborewori in Delta State. And so you can see that's where the whole atmosphere is calm. There is no any part of the state where there are agitations or people, preparing to riot or anything. What they are waiting for tomorrow is celebration galore.
The South-South chairman of the Labour Party believes the judgment of the Supreme Court will be in the best interest of the people.
We are sure that something good will come out of Supreme Court. We're looking forward to it. We didn't go to court just for the going sake. We went to court hoping that our candidate will be declared as the governor of Delta State.
Chairman, Inter-Party Advisory Council Delta State Chapter, say efforts have been made to ensure the state remains peaceful.
For the fact that one of your sons did not do well, does not stop you from celebrating another of your son. It's not partisan, it's not anti-party, it's not creating enmity. Why? Because we're all Deltas before we became member of every other political party. So we have always encouraged everybody as IPAC. Peace and security is our watchword. We want peace in Delta State. We want calmness. We have held a meeting prior to this day, and I've told all political parties, go and talk to your people. We don't want violence in Delta. We don't want rancor in Delta. We don't want anything that is not of normal in Delta.
Political bigwigs from the state are already in Abuja to witness the court proceedings, while various political supporters in the state are expressing diverse shades of assurance of victory. In Asaba for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control has doused fear of the alleged influx of anti-malarial drugs in the Nigerian markets. The agency says while there is prevalence as evident in most developing nations like Nigeria, the proportions remain under control. News Central's Adishewa Dushoga reports.
Just when Nigeria's healthcare system is dealing with outbreaks of diseases and the exodus of its personnel, the sector is facing an even bigger challenge. While malaria is responsible for more than 400,000 deaths in sub-Saharan Africa every year, Nigeria accounts for a higher percentage of the burden due to its size and the lack of funding. But there is a bigger issue here. There is an alleged influx of counterfeit anti-malarial drugs in the Nigerian market, killing 267,000 people every year. Amidst this report, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, in an interview with News Central TV, clears the air.
Every drug that comes into Nigeria is being tested, and whatever test method we apply in that drug laboratory at Yaba, it is according to international standard. And if we pronounce any drug to be genuine and to not to be counterfeit and that is the original one, and it meets all the specification, that drug actually meets those specifications. And anyone that didn't meet those specifications is direct destruction.
A report in Ado Bayero University Kano's Journal of Basic and Clinical Sciences 2017 suggested that between 41 and 50% of drugs in Nigeria were substandard. The World Health Organization says 1 in 10 medical products circulating in developing nations is also substandard.
These medications may contain incorrect ingredients, improper dosages, or even toxic substances. In sub-Saharan Africa, where access to healthcare is already limited, the presence of counterfeit drugs exacerbates the existing health challenges. The widespread availability of these fake drugs or medications undermines the efforts to control diseases like malaria and other chronic illnesses.
Some fake products can come in. How do they come in? They come in through a lot of these things. Either they do not record them or register them as medicines.
While the dangers of fake anti-malarial drugs have now been established and the fears of high prevalence in the Nigerian market doused, concerned agencies are expected to intensify control by guarding the market to avoid penetration of counterfeit products. In Lagos for News Central, Adeshawa Odushoga.
Staying in West Africa, security forces in Guinea on Thursday raided a journalists' rally and made several arrests in the suburbs of the capital, Conakry, during a protest against media restrictions. Journalists had gathered at Press House, where meetings and media conferences are usually held in preparation for a day of demonstrations against restrictions on press freedom and internet access. For several weeks, access to the internet has been severely limited in the West African nation, which has been ruled by military leaders since a 2021 coup. Authorities have also imposed restrictions on non-official media, with social networks and private radio stations cut off, news websites interrupted or suspended, and journalists assaulted or arrested. Coming up on the news. 1 dead, 5 wounded in Comoros pole violence. We will bring you details after this short break. Don't go away. The news continues in East Africa, where at least 1 person has been killed and 5 others wounded after being shot by live rounds and post-election violence in Comoros. In Moroni, the capital, emergency room head at El Maruf Hospital, Dr. Jadbir Ibrahim, says a 21-year-old has been fatally wounded. This comes as the post-election crisis in the Comoros intensified, with the first reported death in street violence and a call from the opposition for a national day of protest on Friday against the so-called masquerade of President Azali Assoumani's victory.
Au fait, pour la journée d'aujourd'hui, on a 7 admissions par les manifestations, dont un petit enfant de 7 ans qui n'est pas grièvement blessé parce qu'on l'a fait retourner à domicile. Mais les 6, c'est probablement par balle. Et il y a un mort, comme vous venez de le dire, un traumatisme crânien grave, probablement par balle.
In the meantime, Comoros presidential opposition candidate Daoudu Abdallah Mohamed says they are against any form of violence, but in relation to these spontaneous movements, they salute the courage of the young people in the country who have expressed their discontent. The Comoros opposition rejected the re-election of Assoumani, a former military ruler, alleging large-scale fraud, and demanded this week's votes to be annulled. Riding the wave of discontent, the defeated challengers called for a national day of protest against the electoral masquerade, as they called it, to be held on Friday after weekly Muslim prayers.
Vous savez, nous, en tant que politiques, nous sommes contre de toute forme de violence. Mais par rapport à ce mouvement spontané, que je salue le courage de ces jeunes qui ont manifesté leur mécontentement et qu'aujourd'hui, nous sommes arrivés là. Pourquoi? Parce que la CENI a publié des résultats qui ne sont pas conformes à la réalité des choses. Et que malheureusement, les autorités, au lieu de trouver une solution, mais ils ont fait descendre l'armée pour réprimer ces jeunes. Je pense que la responsabilité de la CENI est engagée dans cette affaire. Très engagée, parce qu'ils ont pris une lourde responsabilité de publier des résultats qui ne reflètent pas la réalité, mais aussi qui ont créé des troubles dans le pays, que personne n'avait souhaité ça. Et des autres, parce qu'aujourd'hui, si on regarde ces résultats-là, comment on peut comprendre dans une élection couplée? Vous votez en même temps le gouverneur et le président de la République. Et que ceux qui ont voté le gouverneur à la Grande Comore, 125 000. Et quand on regarde ceux qui ont voté le président sur le plan national, 55 000. Comment on peut comprendre? Parce qu'il y a eu des bourrages, ils ont fraudé, déjà ils ne savent même pas le faire. Donc moi,
But I'll tell you that UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has urged the House of Lords to pass its flagship Rwanda bill, as it warned peers not to frustrate the will of the people. Addressing a press conference after the legislation was approved by lawmakers, Sunak said it is now up to the Lords to do the right thing. But the Prime Minister declined to give a date for when flights carrying asylum seekers would take off to Rwanda. He only said he wants it to happen as quickly as possible. The bill, which seeks to revive the government's plan to send some asylum seekers to the East African country, was passed by 320 to 276 votes in the House of Commons on Wednesday.
Actions. We had the Supreme Court ruling middle of November, and within a matter of weeks after that happened, we negotiated and signed a treaty with Rwanda and brought fresh legislation to Parliament that had its first vote as well and was supported, right? So that gives you a sense, I hope, of the urgency with which we are attacking this problem. I've been crystal clear that we want to do this as quickly as possible. You can see the urgency with which James and Michael and the team are operating, and it's now up to the House of Lords. Right. I think the country has been very clear that this is a priority. We've been very clear that this is a priority for us, and Parliament, the elected Parliament, has also, with a very strong majority last night, supported this legislation. I think it's incumbent now on the House of Lords to recognise that, to pass this legislation unamended as quickly as possible so that we can then start getting flights up and running. And what I would say is, we are not waiting for that moment.
Now I'll tell you that Ugandan security forces have blockaded the homes of prominent opposition politicians ahead of a planned protest in the capital, Kampala. Both opposition leader Kizza Besigye and former pop star Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobby Wine, say that security forces surrounded their homes, preventing them from leaving. Besigye shared a post with photos showing several security officers obstructing the entrance to his home. Two government critics have asked Ugandans to go ahead with the planned protest on Thursday to demand the government to fix dilapidated roads. Police have vowed to block the demonstrations, saying that protests organized by the politicians have never been peaceful and would disrupt a key summit on the way in the capital. Earlier, a journalist, Ronald Muhinda, joined us to speak more on this.
The house arrest is something that we are used to as Ugandans, especially when it comes to addressing grievances of opposition leaders in this country. In particular, Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye has been a victim of this illegal house arrest procedure that the Mr. Museveni regime has been using against him since 2011. Now, Bobi Wine is also beginning to be a victim of the same illegal house arrest procedure that the regime uses to curtail the freedom of movement, freedom of association, and of course, freedom to protest as it is enshrined in the Ugandan constitution, which all these measures are implemented by a government that is extremely fearful of the opposition in this country. But to go back to this particular issue, the opposition under an umbrella organization called the United Forces of Change, this time a political organization that has been arranged or put together outside an election campaign.
Somalia's foreign ministry says there is no space for mediation with Ethiopia unless it retracts its deal with the self-declared Republic of Somaliland. The comments come after the African Union's Peace and Security Council called for restraint, saying Somalia's sovereignty should be respected. The January 1 agreement between Ethiopia and Somaliland that raised the possibility that Somaliland would lease part of its coastline to Ethiopia has angered Somalia. Somalia, which considers Somaliland as part of its territory, called it an act of aggression and described the deal as illegal. In the Horn of the Africa region, a Kenyan court in the coastal city of Mombasa has charged the leader of a starvation cult with terrorism over the deaths of more than 400 of his followers. Court documents show self-proclaimed Pastor Paul Ntenge McKenzie and 94 other suspects pleaded not guilty to charges of radicalization, with the cult leader also charged with organized criminal activity. Authorities say McKenzie ordered his followers to starve themselves and their children to death so that they could go to heaven before the world ended. More than 400 bodies were uncovered over months of exhumations across tens of thousands of acres of forest, making this one of the world's worst cult-related tragedies in recent history. For more business stories, we now join our business desk.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
In business, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has granted Kenya a $941 million lending boost, providing much-needed relief to the country as it grapples with financial pressures. Of this amount, $624.5 million will be immediately disbursed under the Extended Fund Facility EFF and Extended Credit Facility ECF programs, and an additional $60.2 million will be released under the Resilience and Sustainability Facility RSF arrangement. With its approval, the IMF's total funding commitment to Kenya across all three facilities now exceeds $4.4 billion. The IMF stated that Kenya's growth has remained resilient despite various challenges, and these arrangements will support the government's efforts to maintain macroeconomic stability. The funds will assist Kenya in addressing liquidity challenges and meeting the maturity of its $2 billion Eurobond in June, while also alleviating the strain caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change-induced droughts, and currency depreciation. The approval follows a staff-level agreement reached with Kenyan officials in November. As Ghana's debt restructuring talks near completion, the government is confronted with a new challenge. It must demonstrate to investors its ability to control spending while undergoing a debt revamp following a default on around $20 billion of international bonds and loans in 2022. However, with an upcoming election this December, the ruling party is under pressure to increase spending on voter priorities. This has raised concerns among some investors that the election could lead to wider budget deficits, potentially hampering progress in debt restructuring. Ghana has a history of overspending during election years, and rebuilding trust with investors requires fiscal consolidation. The debt restructuring process could be further complicated if the World Bank downgrades Ghana's income classification level, potentially leading to larger haircuts for bondholders. And finally, the recent currency turmoil on the parallel market is temporary and driven by increased demand for US dollars at the end of the year, according to Zimbabwe's central bank governor. The volatility is largely confidence-related as people desire to hold foreign currency. Zimbabwe has been struggling to stabilize its currency since its reintroduction in 2019, with significant losses against the dollar on both the official and parallel markets. Citizens prefer using the US dollar for transactions, leading to inflation due to exchange rate movements. The governor urged businesses to support the local currency and dismissed concerns about declining dollar inflows, citing the potential of new export minerals like lithium to compensate for decreases in other commodities. And that's a package on the business news at this hour. Thank you for watching. I am Perpetua Fasami Peter. The news continues shortly. Bye for now.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
Let's now find out what is happening in the world of entertainment.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
Welcome to entertainment on NC Continental Prime. The Coachella Valley Music and Art Festival, a desert oasis of musical discovery, has unveiled its 2024 lineup, and this year, Afrobeats and Amapiano takes center stage, with groundbreaking inclusion of Tyler, Thames, and DJ Spinall. While established headliners like Lana Del Rey and Tyler the Creator add familiar brilliance, it's the debut of these three African stars that mark a monumental shift. For the first time, Coachella's stage will pulsate with infectious rhythm and vibrant energy of Afrobeats. With sold-out day tickets and a buzzing pre-sale for 3-day passes, the anticipation for Coachella 2024 is already electric, but the inclusion of Tyler, Thames, and DJ Spinall adds a new layer of excitement.
Like damn, she in her mood. Like damn, she in her mood. Like damn, she in her mood.
Outside the continent, Ice Spice finds herself facing legal fire over her popular track In Her Mood. Rapper The Chambers has filed a lawsuit against Ice Spice and her producer, Riot, alleging copyright infringement, claiming his own song In The Mood, released a year prior, serves as a blueprint for Ice Spice's hit. The lawsuit details striking similarities between the two songs, encompassing the beat, lyrics, hook, rhythmic structure, and even the underlying narrative. The Chambers asserts that his song, released on major distribution platforms in January 2022, predates Ice Spice's single by almost a year. He further alleges that Ice Spice's producer, Riot, likely encountered his work through various avenues. The Chambers claims to have performed In The Hood numerous times in New York City, including venues near Ice Spice and Riot's residence. Additionally, he claims airplay on Hot 97 FM in New York, suggesting a potential for direct exposure through radio. Social media evidence is also said to be part of his case. The repercussions sought by the Chambers are significant. He's aiming for at least half of the publishing rights and revenue generated by In Her Mood, along with unspecified damages. While Ice Spice's camp has yet to offer a public response, the lawsuit casts a shadow over the song's continued success.
She lit, get money too. Like damn, she in her mood.
And finally, in a positive turn of events, Sophia Turner and Joe Jonas have reached an agreement regarding their daughter's custody, prompting their attorneys to request the dismissal of the international child abduction lawsuit filed by Turner in September. According to legal documents, both parties agreed to dismiss the federal case in New York, citing the successful development of a custody arrangement through the UK courts in October. It is important to note that a judge's official approval is still pending, but this development marks a substantial step towards closure. Recall that Turner's initial lawsuit invoking an international child abduction law stemmed from allegations that Jonas withheld their child's passports, hindering their travel to England. This raised the matter to a federal level and garnered significant attention. However, since then, the ex-couple has managed to navigate towards a more amicable approach. Their temporary custody arrangement, established in October, ensures shared time with their daughters, including during holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas. While other aspects of the divorce remain open for negotiation, their progress regarding custody demonstrates a commitment to prioritizing their children's well-being. Additionally, both Turner and Jonas have reportedly moved on romantically, further suggesting a shift towards peacefulness in their post-divorce relationship. And that is all I have for you tonight on entertainment on NC Continental Prime. Trust Roy for News Central.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited. Sports update brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
Talking sports, Nigeria Super Eagles have secured their 3-point victory in Ivory Coast, clinching a 1-0 win in Abidjan during the AFCON 2023 tournament. The Super Eagles delivered a stellar performance, marking a significant milestone in their football history. The decisive movement came when Super Eagles captain Chust Ekong successfully converted a penalty after African Player of the Year Victor Osimhen was brought down in the box. The Super Eagles have proven once more their prowess on the continental stage. Napoli striker Victor Osimhen, who played a vital role in securing the much-celebrated win, was awarded the Player of the Match. Now, at this point, joining me from Côte d'Ivoire is our sports correspondent, Favor Itwa. Favor, thank you so much for joining us, and I want to believe you enjoyed the match.
Yes, of course, I enjoyed the game. It was a fantastic game, and yes, before the game, I did anticipate a win. I did also predict a win, and it came to pass. The first win for Nigeria right here. You can also see that behind me is the Alassane Ouattara Stadium. The fans have all started to make their way out, of course, and of course the journalists will be making their way out very soon. But it is where history was made. In the last 4 games, Nigeria have not won a game, and so this is the first win for Nigeria in 5 attempts, and that's the big news for the country and for the fans back home in Nigeria.
In the first match, the coach, Jose Peseiro, was criticized for his first 11. And, of course, they said his substitutes or his substitutions were terrible. What did he do different at this time? What did he do in getting it right?
All right, for Jose Peseiro, he did change his tactics, which, of course, the formation. This time around, he went for a 3-man defense and also wing backs. So whenever the Super Eagles are being attacked, you have a 5-man wall. And whenever they go forward to attack, the wing backs will move forward to support the attack. I think what he did was to conserve the pressure, to conserve to ensure that the Ivorians do not penetrate. And that's what we saw in the first few minutes of the game, whereby we had the likes of Jan Kraso pushing the attack. And from the flanks, we have Sergio Ria trying to drive in the player, driving the balls. But of course, the defense were, at the last on the day, and they were very, very good in defending the balls. That was what played out for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. And then they were able to attack using the likes of Alex Iwobi, trying to make some split passes, and not forgetting Adebola Lookman, and of course, the talisman, Victor Osimhen. So these were the things I think he did differently. And of course, he made 2 changes to the squad that started the first game. And Moses Simon, of course, we know what happened. He was put out to, have the likes of Samuel Chukwueze playing for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. And not also forgetting the defense. We had the likes of Calvin Bassey, who, of course, came into the starting 11. So these were very, very instrumental in Super Eagles getting the desired result. And not forgetting the goalkeeper, Stanley Wabali, who was fantastic on the day. And he made some saves that kept Nigeria into the game and ensured they win the game.
Favor Itwa, thank you so much for the updates.
Thank you very much, Lekon.
Update brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
That's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at our top stories. Death toll from Ibadan explosion has risen to 5. One person has died while 5 others have been wounded in Comoros poll violence. We also told you that opposition in DR Congo has called for Inauguration Day protests. Don't forget to send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on the screen. You can follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, StarTimes channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onabanjo.